What's up guys, today I'm going to do a walkthrough of the Arduino color picker project code. If you haven't checked out that video, make sure you do so you know what we're talking about. Alright guys, so this is Arduino code, which is basically C++. It's a very useful language. As you can see, these things over here in gray, those are comments. Basically, that's all for your own understanding. That's not the actual code, but things down here are the code. Well, without any further ado, let's get started. So first thing that we're doing here is we're including the Adafruit NeoPixel library, which basically is going to allow us to use all the functions to control NeoPixels that are more complex than normal RGB LEDs. And then over here we are setting our constant global variables, right? So instead of having to write, every time we want to control this button, instead of having to write 4, and then if we need to change it every single time, you have to go look for every 4 that corresponds to this. You go over here and then just name something, and like assign a name to the variable, and then assign the value. And then every time we write this thing, it's going to be consistent with this. So yeah, so we're gonna have 3 buttons for colors, right? Red, green, blue, and then we're gonna have one to send the print to the screen, right? And then we're gonna have our output pin for the NeoPixels, and then we're gonna have the input knob pin, right? So basically the potentiometer. Now we're gonna initialize the Adafruit NeoPixel, right? So you use this with this constructor that they have. This is the number of NeoPixels that are in series connected, and we're only gonna use 1 right now. And then this is the pin that this is assigned to, and then other specifications about the type of pin that we're using. Then we are declaring these variables that are gonna hold the values for each one of the colors. And then this is just to keep track of how many colors we send to the print that we actually want. And now this is the cool Arduino thing, right? So there's 2 main functions that Arduino runs. One is the setup, which runs only once right after the Arduino turns on. And then one is the loop, which is the code that's going to be running over and over and over again for as long as the Arduino is on. So over here in the setup, we're going to write the things that we're only going to use once, right? So now we're going to initialize the serial port. Basically, this is what allows us to receive the information, the text from the Arduino. Then we're going to initialize our pins, right? We're going to tell the Arduino how we're going to use each pin, right? So we're telling it here. The pin assigned to the red button, it's going to be an input pull-up resistor. Basically what that means is that when you get the high value, which means when it detects that it's receiving 5 volts, it means that no one has pressed it. And then if it receives low value, right, if it receives 0 volts, then that means that someone pressed it. And that's how this is being interpreted. And then the pixel pin, right, which is the pin that we're using to control the Arduino, is going to be an output pin. Then we're going to initialize the NeoPixels, right? This is initializing this is telling the Arduino that we're about to use the NeoPixels, and it sets all the values that it needs to use. It turns everything off, and then you write show. So every time you use a NeoPixel and you change a color, you first assign all the colors that you want to all the different NeoPixels in your array, and then you tell it to show, and then everything will change colors all at once, just like you determined. Then over here, we're setting the initial values for all the colors the same. We're turning them all off. And then here we're keeping track, like we're starting the count of all the prints that we are saving to 0. Now let's move to the loop. Over here, we are reading what is the state of each button, right? It's like, is it on? Is it off? So that's where you use this. You use digital read, and then the number of the pin that you're reading. Then we are reading the analog value from the knob. So analog values from the potentiometer can be anywhere from 0 to 1023. But Arduinos only take values from 0 to 255 to determine the brightness of each of their individual RGBs, right? The red or the green or the blue, 0 to 255. That means off or the brightest. So in order to match a value that comes from the potentiometer to a value that we're going to be using, we're going to use this function that's called map. Basically, it divides the input chunks into the proportional chunks that you would need for your output. And then we're going to use this function called analog read from the analog pin that we're going to use, and it's going to give us that value, and then it's going to map the reading, and that's what we're going to save as our sensor value. Now comes a little bit more of the fun stuff. Over here, what we're going to do is we're going to see, okay, is for each of these pins, if the corresponding color pin has been pressed, then let's assign the value that the potentiometer has read, right? And we're going to do this for all three, right? If it's pressed, if the red color is pressed, assign the value from the potentiometer. If the green one, assign the value. All right, so now that we have determined what value goes to what, we're going to send it to the NeoPixel. We're going to send it to the pixel. So it's like pixel 0, right? Because in C++ we count from 0. We count arrays starting from 0. So we have one NeoPixel. That means that it's NeoPixel 0. If we had 2, it'd be 0 and 1, right? So we're to NeoPixel 0. We're going to send the pixel color value, right? So this pixel color function transforms the red, green, and blue independent values to one single value. And then with this set pixel color function, we're going to send it to the NeoPixel, and then we're going to tell it to show them all, right? To apply the color. Finally, over here, we're going to handle if we press the print button. So if you press the print button, right, if print state is low, then we're going to print to the serial screen, right? When we're going to write the number of color that we have saved, which we increase before we actually print the color, right? We started with 0, and it's going to be the first one, right? So plus makes this into a 1, and then print that, and then print the red value, the green value, and the blue value, and then this delay, what it does, it basically tells the Arduino to stop everything it's doing for 200 milliseconds. And the reason I have this here is because if we don't have this, when we press the button, you're going to get a bunch of presses at the same time because your finger is not as quick as lightning. So it takes at least, well, for me, it takes at least 100 to 200 milliseconds to do a whole press. So we're going to delay for 200 milliseconds, which means, okay, if I pressed it, we're going to do this thing and make sure that any other times that the button is being pressed are not actually considered new button presses. So that's it for today, guys, and make sure to go check out the build video so that you know how everything was set up and put together and how it actually turned out. You can check that video over here. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys learned a lot. We'll be doing more Arduino and other electronics projects soon, so see you around.